what are the most difficult problems he or she will face in 2008?
There you go. Why don't we just ask Obama, what since he won by such a big...
Because, you know, it is just wonderful to be back in Oregon, and over the last 15 months we've traveled to every corner of the United States. I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go. Alaska and Hawaii I was not allowed to go to, even though I really wanted to visit, but my staff would not justify it.
I'll tell you what. There's never been a day in the last 4 years I've been proud to be his vice president. Not one single day. Not one single day. But anyway.
Hope is making a comeback. It is making a comeback, and let me tell you something. For the first time in my adult lifetime, I'm really proud of my country. And not just because Barack has done well, but because I think people are hungry for change.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Well, why has it been delayed?
Ma'am, at the LACPR is...
You know, do me a favor. Could you say senator instead of ma'am?
Yes,
it's just a thing. I worked so hard to get that title, so I'd appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir.
People, tonight is the measure of whether the country begins in the state of Wisconsin a national drive to push back, or whether we have more to go to build a movement of resistance. But resist we must, and we will much about that be committed. Joining me now.
I got to ask you about Elizabeth Emkin. She wants to debate you. The LA Times came out and said you ought to debate her.
I'm running my own campaign. Thank you, Mark.
Is there any more you can add to that?
Did a large event in Modesto, did 3 or 4 meetings, been in Southern California, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Wouldn't it be better for the voters to hear both sides?
No, thank you very much.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, I see what you mean. I'm sorry. Well, I would hope not. I would hope that by now, well, I'm with the 11th Amendment, so is it the 11th Amendment that 14th is it? Whatever it is, I'm with the Constitution of the United States. Now we have to talk about baseball. I'm glad you have on orange.
But I think that you took one piece of it. We're talking about no further sales of assault weapons. What is the justification for an assault weapon? No further sales of those. No further sales of the increased capacity 30. The gun. We're talking about background checks, which is very popular even among gun owners and hunters. We avow the First Amendment. We stand with that and say that people have a right to have a gun to protect themselves in their homes, in their jobs, wherever, and that they in their workplace, and that they for recreation, for hunting, and the rest. So we're not questioning their right to do that.
The question is
on this Memorial Day, as our nation honors its unbroken line of fallen heroes, and I see many of them in the audience here today. One such translator was American of Haitian descent, representative of the extraordinary work that our men and women in uniform do all around the world, Navy Corpsman Christian Bouchard. And lying on a gurney aboard the USNS Comfort, a woman asked Christopher, "Where do you come from? What country?" "After my operation," she said, "I will pray for that country." And in Creole, Corpsman Bouchard responded, "In Tanzania."
Look, John's last-minute economic plan does nothing to tackle the #1 job facing the middle class, and it happens to be, as Barack says, a 3-letter word:
jobs. J-O-B-S, jobs.
Hillary Clinton is as qualified or more qualified than I am to be Vice President of the United States of America. Let's get that straight. She's a truly close personal friend. She is qualified to be President of the United States of America. She's easily qualified to be Vice President of the United States of America. And quite frankly, it might have been a better pick than me, but she's first rate.
You know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. We're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
The point I was making was not that my grandmother harbors any racial animosity. She doesn't. Right. But she is a typical white person who, if she sees somebody on the street that she doesn't know, you know, there's a reaction that's been bred into our experiences that don't go away and that sometimes come out in the wrong way.
Don't have an opportunity. So I want to challenge this body to be the kind of Lincoln-esque attitude, as yesterday was the official birthday of President Lincoln, February 12th. And although it was a tragic time in our history, I can assure you that it showed the greatest promise of America when people could come together and do something great. I stand here as a freed slave because this Congress came together. Are we going to be able to do it today to free America? I yield back.
Romney wants to he said in the first 100 days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains. He said he's going to do nothing about stopping the practice of outsourcing.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far to leave me. And the chair of all the mayors in the country, Mayor Palmer from Trenton, New Jersey.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
I was trying to think about who he was tonight, and it's interesting. He is post-racial, by all appearances. You know, I forgot he was black tonight for an hour. You know, he's gone a long way to become a leader of this country and passed so much history in just a year or two. I mean, it's something we don't even think about. I was watching, I said, wait a minute, he's an African-American guy in front of a bunch of other white people.
And I want to say to my colleagues that I stand here asking us to do what we did not do in Vietnam, was to recognize the valiant and outstanding service of our men and women, and to understand victory had been achieved. Today we have two Vietnams, side by side, North and South, exchanging and working. We may not agree with all that North Vietnam is doing, but they are living in peace. I would look for a better human rights record for North Vietnam, but they're living side by side, because that was a civil war. And because the leadership of this nation did not listen to the mothers and fathers who borne the burden of 58,000 dead and did not declare victory, the mounting death, the violence continued going up and up. Rather than understanding the political nature of the war in Vietnam, we did not listen to those families.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
This plan's going to tax me more, isn't it?
It's not that I want to punish your success. I just want to make sure that everybody who is behind you, that they've got a chance at success too. I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everybody.
Okay. Said yesterday we did not have the majority, but we have the gavel. Excuse me.
We don't have the gavel. We don't have it. We have our own gavel. We have something more important. We have unity. We do not have the gavel. We do not have the majority, but we have unity.
You know the phrase they always use? Obama and Biden want to raise taxes by $8 trillion. Guess what? Yes, we do in one regard. We want to let that $1 trillion tax cut expire so the middle class doesn't have to bear the burden of all that money going to the super wealthy. This is deadly earnest. How they can justify raising taxes in the middle class has been buried the last 4 years.
You know, under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Even, you know, regardless of what I say about whether coal is good or bad, because I'm capping greenhouse gases, coal-powered plants, you know, natural gas, you name whatever the plants were, whatever the industry was, they would have to retrofit their operations. That will cost money. They will pass that money on to consumers.
I want to get this right. In a 2006 press release, you declared Democrats have a common sense plan to help bring down skyrocketing gas prices. Gasoline now, it keeps going up proportionally. It's a record high in the history of gasoline. What happened?
Well, it's almost 3 times what it was when President Bush took office. It was $1 something when he took office. Now it's $2.56 on average, but it's higher in California.
$3.50 they're saying now.
$3.50, down 6 cents.
So I would urge my Republican colleagues, no matter how strongly they feel, you know, we have 3 branches of government. We have a House, we have a Senate, we have a President, and all 3 of us are going to have to come together and give some. But it is playing with fire to risk the shutting down of the government, just as it is playing with fire to risk not paying the debt ceiling.
This bill, which shows that this Tea Party Congress will make the tough choice to keep children's birthday parties on schedule and give industries that rely on helium the lift that they deserve. Imagine, Mr. Speaker, a world without balloons. How can we make sure that the injustice of there being no helium for comedians to get that high-pitched voice that we all hold near and dear to our hearts? Imagine a world without balloons. Today, the House has chosen to just simply float above it all. And finally, we're going to do something for the American people, and we should all pat ourselves on the back for that. Too often lately, this body has sat deflated. Not for a lack of hot air, mind you, but seriously, ladies and gentlemen, unlike a noble element, this House has failed to act on Americans' real concerns. There are serious reasons to support this bill, and I do look forward to supporting it. The substance of this bill is not...
If you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. The internet didn't get invented on its own.
It will emerge from my dialogue with the American people. I've traveled to every part of this country during the last 6 years. During my service in the United States Congress, I took the initiative in creating the Internet. I took the initiative in moving forward a whole range of initiatives.
I tell you. Well, good to see you. As you know, I got a lot of support from this Indian pack.
That's where, and more to come, I think.
Yeah,
so,
no, I've had a great relationship. In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. It's a fully, I'm not joking. Oh, gigantic.
Because you're the one that
Thank you, buddy. And I met with a group. Do you realize of the CEOs in Silicon Valley, 30% of the CEOs in Silicon Valley are Indian American?
This week there was a tragedy in Kansas. 10,000 people died. An entire town destroyed. I talked to somebody in the governor's office, Governor Sebelius, who I was going to be traveling with in New Orleans, had to fly back. Found out that the National Guard in Kansas only had 40% of its equipment, and they are having to slow down the recovery process in Kansas.
For America, I'm so glad we had that storm last week, because I think the storm was one of those things. No, politically, I should say, not in terms of hurting people. The storm brought in possibilities for good politics.
I want to thank Chris Matthews, Lawrence O'Donnell, Reverend Al Sharpton, Ed Schultz, and Steve Schmidt. MSNBC's live coverage of the 2012 election continues after this with Thomas Roberts, and then at 5 a.m. with...
But the Taoiseach knows a lot about it. His mom lived in Long Island for 10 years or so. God rest her soul. And although she's... Wait, your mom's still alive as your dad passed. God bless her soul.
If I lived in Massachusetts, I'd try to vote 10 times. I don't know if they'd let me or not, but I'd try to. Yeah, that's right. I'd cheat to keep these bastards out. I would. Because that's exactly what they are. These Tea Partiers, I tell you what, number one, they're not well educated. They're not up on the issues. They've been whipped up into a frenzy. And they carry guns out there to these rallies. Damn right, I got this thing. I'll show them. I'll show Obama I got freedom.
Proposition 19 won't even legalize marijuana. It will still be legal under federal law, and Attorney General Eric Holder has indicated he will enforce federal law vigorously.
Abraham Lincoln helped to build the interstate or the Intercontinental Railroad in the middle of the Civil War because he understood this was going to be important.
Part of what a leader does is to instill confidence, is demonstrate that he or she knows what they're talking about and communicates to people. If you listen to me and follow what I'm suggesting, we can fix this. When the stock market crashed, Franklin Roosevelt got on television and didn't just talk about the princes of greed. He said, look, here's what happened.
Education, if you make the most of it, and you study hard, and you do your homework, and you make an effort to be smart, you can do well. If you don't, you get stuck in a rack.
And I also am told that Chuck Graham, state senator, is here. Chuck, stand up. Chuck, let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal. Thank you very, very much. I tell you what, stand up for Chuck. Thank you, pal. You can tell I'm new. Good to see you, buddy. Thank you. Thank
you. First of all, I haven't seen the records. I don't know that Hillary Rosen, I know 3 personally, women named Hillary Rosen, so I'm not sure that that those represent the person we're talking about necessarily. So I really can't comment on the number of visits since I'm not sure that's accurate.
3 months that we do not have an economic recovery package, 500 million Americans lose their jobs. I don't think we can go fast enough to stop that. The President asked for action, swift and bold, and that is what we are doing.
What guarantees are you going to give this liberal about how that will reduce the cost of gasoline at the pump if we let you drill where you say you want to drill.
I can guarantee to the American people, because of the inaction of the United States Congress ever increasing prices unless the demand comes down, and the $5 will look like a very low price in the years to come if we are prohibited from finding new reserves, new opportunities to increase supplies.
And guess what this liberal would be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Repeat the last part of the question, please.
So she's asking if a ban goes into effect on certain kinds of weapons and high-capacity magazines.
And what's her name?
Kate.
Kate, if you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun, have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun, and I promise you, as I told my wife, we live in an area that's wooded and somewhat secluded. I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside the house. I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to, you don't need an AR-15. It's harder to aim, it's harder to use, and in fact, you don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun.
Is the world flat? Is the world flat? Yes. I don't know. What do you think? I never thought about it, Whoopi. Is the world flat? I never thought about it.
You never thought about whether the world was
round? No, because but I tell you what I've thought about, how I'm going to feed my child, how I'm going to take care of my family. The world flat has never entered into, that has not been an important thing to me.
You'll teach your son, Jeffrey,
if my son, Jeffrey, asks me, is the world flat? I guess I will go. You know, didn't Columbus already...
He was executed for WWB in a GC. Walking while black in a gated community.
Now, this is a island that at its widest level is, what, 12 miles from shore to shore, and at its smallest level, or smallest location, it's 7 miles between one shore and the other. Is that correct?
I don't have the exact dimensions, but to your point, sir, I think Guam is a small island.
Very small island, and about 24 miles, if I recall, long. So 24 miles long, about 7 miles wide at the least widest place on the island, and about 12 miles wide on the widest part of the island. And I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know?
I don't have that figure with me, sir. I can certainly supply it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that. The Guam population, I think, currently about 175,000, and again, with 8,000 Marines and their families, it's an addition of about 25,000 more into the population.
And also things like the environment, the sensitive areas of the environment, coral reefs and those kinds of things. And I know that, you know, lots of people don't like to think about that, but, you know, we didn't think about global warming either. And Now, we do have to think about it, and so I'm concerned from an environmental standpoint whether or not Guam is the best place to do this relocation, but it's actually the only place. Is that correct?
This is the best place. This is the farthest west U.S. territory that we own, and this is part of our nation. And in readdressing the forward presence and posture importance to Pacific Command, Guam is vital to this decision.
What if somebody straps a motor on Guam and drives it away in the night, and you wake up and you ain't there no more? Well, sir, it's very hard to propel a large island through the ocean, sir, to a completely different location, sir. Okay, what happens if someone's digging a hole for like a building and the island spring a leak and sink? Yeah, sir, that can't happen either. See, the island is actually connected to the earth. It's virtually a mountain where most of it is under the water and just the top is poking out. Now, you sound ridiculous. A mountain in the ocean? That's crazy.